I believe we're picking up somewhere on 1250, 1251. Can't remember if we discussed Laertes talking with Ophelia. Did we? Anybody remember? We did? Am I saying we did? Okay, so I want to pick up then. So Laertes essentially warns Ophelia about Hamlet because he's a future prince, or because he's a prince and future king. He can't just marry anyone he wants. You're not in his league, so kind of, be very careful. Polonius comes in as Laertes is getting ready to leave to go back to France to study. And he says, line 50, I think that's 57. He says, "There my blessing with thee, and these few precepts in thy memory look thou character." These few precepts, these few proverbs, words of wisdom, aphorisms, okay? He says, in thy memory, look thou character. Character means write. Inscribe these in your memory. It's going to be significant or important because maybe today we'll get there. The ghost is going to tell Hamlet to do some things, but he's going to say, taint not thy mind. And Hamlet's going to listen to the ghost's going to leave, and Hamlet's essentially going to do more than taint not his mind. He's going to, he says, erase his mind and write something new there, all right? And the something new he's going to write is going to be all kill Claudius. That's it, right? So there's this idea of the mind and what is in the mind will kind of play throughout the rest of the play. In fact, Hamlet even at one point is going to say, from this point on, if I put on an antic disposition, don't give out that you know what I'm doing, all right? So, what are the precepts Polonius wants his son Laertes to keep in mind when he's away at university? He says, should not turn the page. Give thy thoughts no tongue. This is the bottom of 1251, line 59, I think. Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. So, think before you speak. Don't just blurt out what's going on in your mind. That's the first part. Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. That is, and don't act without first doing what? Keep going, thinking, seeing the thought to its conclusion. That's the unproportioned thought. Unproportioned means have it all, nice and tidy. Whatever it is you're going to do, know what it is you're going to do. Think of the consequences and such, all right? Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. That is, be known by people. What's he mean by be not vulgar? Vulgar there doesn't mean like we think, someone's using vulgar language or etc. It means common. Have you ever thrown a party, ever been to a party? You're more than likely not, because you're still in college and you probably don't care. I didn't when I was your age. Had a get together where somebody wouldn't leave. You want them to go, and they're just like a bad smell, and they just won't. That's what he means. So be familiar, let people know who you are, but don't be like that friend that just doesn't know when to leave. All right? Those friends thou hast, how do you get those friends? By being familiar. So the friends that you have and their adoption tried there means proven. You've tested their friendship. And that doesn't mean that you come up with some ruse to find out if they're friends or a close friend. How does friendship get tested? You ever heard of the phrase, Fair weather friends? What's it mean? People who are your friends when everything's going great, when everything's going well. What do fair weather friends do when things start going poorly for you? They go away. They don't want to be tarred with you. They don't want to be seen in your company and such. Okay? So the friends that you have, and you've proven their adoption, their friendship, do what? Grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel. Tie them around your soul. Why? Because these are the people you can rely on. These are the ones you can trust. Okay? But do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each new unhatched, unfledged comrade. Here's how I will define what he calls new hatched, unfledged comrade. Facebook friends, social media friends. I know people, maybe you're in this group, people in my family have over 1,000 Facebook friends or whatever, okay? I have 13 because each of those 13 is somebody I actually physically know. My daughter got really big on Twitter. She was a nurse and got famous and all this kind of stuff. And she's had people, she's got, I don't remember, 100,000 Twitter followers or something like that. 10, I don't remember what the number is. But, still kind of thinks of them as friends. No. Polonius is saying, beware, do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each new hatched, unfledged comrade. The person who wants to join the group, but you barely know that person. He's saying, stay away from them, okay? So what's he kind of implying? Small, close-knit group of friends. Kind of the military band of brothers idea. What else? Beware of entrance to a quarrel, but being in, bear it that the opposed may beware of thee. So beware of entrance to a quarrel. Don't get into fights, whether they're physical fights or verbal arguments. Don't get involved in those. But if you do, that is, if you can't stop that from happening, then do what? Fight how? Argue how? So that the person you are fighting or arguing with will do what in the future? Know not to get involved. Okay? So, rhetorically, let's say it's a verbal argument, you so defeat that other person. You so destroy their argument that they say, I'm staying away from this person. If it's a physical altercation, you so beat the crap out of them that they know, I'm not going near you. Okay? Give every man thy ear, but few thy voice. Listen to what others say, but don't what? Tell them what you think. Okay? Next aphorism goes along with that. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. If somebody wants to come up and criticize you, listen to it. Take it. But don't then do, oh yeah, well you're... Don't respond. Don't reply. Okay? Pause for a moment. What's Polonius's position? What's his job in the play? What does he do for a living? He's a counselor, advisor to the king. He's the counselor and advisor to the king. It's his job, therefore, to do what? Tell the king what he thinks. It's his job to listen. All right? So, go on. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy. Rich, not gaudy. In other words, wear the kinds of clothes you can afford. Rich, meaning well made, but not Elton John. If you're familiar with how Elton John dresses like for a concert. Don't go out there so overdressed to turn people off. Why? For the apparel oft proclaims the man. How you appear, whether you like it or not, often says what? The kind of person you are. You will never see, and I'm not criticizing, I'm not making value judgments. You will never see somebody in the business department at MTSU, over in the Business and Aerospace building, come to class dressed like I am. They have a dress code. Literal dress code. Suit and tie. If you're a woman professor, skirt or slacks. And probably some kind of blazer. All right? Because what is the standard dress code in the quote-unquote business world? Fortune 500 companies.
Professional.
It's professional. It's a suit and tie. That's not the quote-unquote dress code for, I have no idea what the dress code would be for English teachers. I see colleagues come in with shorts and t-shirts. I've seen people teaching in sweats, okay? So, he goes on. They in France of the best rank and station are the most select and generous chief in that. In what? The best clothes could be what it means, or he could be saying they are the best in that. What was his last word about the clothing? Gaudy. They're overdressed. What would you think if one of you came into class on Monday, let's say a young lady came into class on Monday in a wedding dress? Yeah, you go, what the hell? It's actually happened once. This student, I think she was a fashion designer, and she had to do something in the very next class and would not have time to change. Anyways, or a guy comes in a tux. Do you wear a tux to a job interview? No. Chippendales, maybe? I don't know. No, you don't. So it would be very odd. That would be considered gaudy. Okay? Neither a borrower nor a lender be. Why? For loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulleth edge of husbandry. Don't loan money to a friend, because what will you lose? That friend and the money. It's the one will lose the other. Because the friend isn't going to pay you back, you're going to lose the friend. Don't borrow money from a friend. Why? Because you're still going to lose the friend. All right? Why else? Borrowing does what? Borrowing dulleth the edge of husbandry. What's meant by husbandry? Today, that term has a very specific meaning. It's working with animals. That's not what it means, though. Husbandry means hard work, diligence. It's a lot easier to take out a loan, right? I mean, you go to one of these places on Broad Street or whatever, give them the title to your car, and they'll give you what? A loan based on that. What happens if you don't pay it back? You've just given them your car for whatever amount you borrowed for. Usually it's way under market value, okay? This above all, that is, this above everything else I've just told you. To thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. What does that mean, to your own self be true? How do you be true to yourself? What does that presuppose? There's something in here. Okay? What's that something? Sense of honor, integrity, your quote-unquote good name. Now, if you don't have any of these things, then it doesn't really matter, right? Then it just means screw everybody else. I'm going to get what I want, no matter what. Okay? If you're true to yourself, meaning to your own inner moral compass, that's assuming one has one. If you're Jeffrey Dahmer, you don't have a moral compass. Okay? Your moral compass is, I'm going to take some guy out on a date and then kill him and eat him, kind of a thing. All right? But if you follow your own moral compass, then you cannot be what? False to somebody else. Okay? So, farewell. Question. Is this good advice? Are all of these little moral precepts good advice? I think they are. There are a ton of Shakespeare critics who say, this isn't meant seriously. This is not good advice. And the reason they say that is because of who it comes from. And the reason they say that is because Polonius doesn't follow his own advice. It's the whole thing of, listen to the message, but shoot the messenger kind of a thing. All right? His advice is great advice. Think of how Ophelia replied to Laertes. Laertes told her about Hamlet, and she says, fine, I'll follow your advice, but you follow it too. Don't show me the stony and thorny way to heaven while you go off screwing everybody. Okay? Follow your own advice. He goes, oh, no, of course, I will. Polonius gives this advice to his son, but he doesn't live any of it himself. All right? So, Ophelia comes in. Laertes leaves, and he says, now, what are you here for? So he talks to Ophelia. She tells him what she and Laertes were talking about. And she says, in response to Polonius's questioning, lines 90 and following, he hath my lord, this is Ophelia, line 99, he hath my lord of late made many tenders of his affection to me. Tenders. He's given her cards. He's written her letters. He's written her notes. He's written her poems. He sent her flowers. Affection. You speak like a green girl. Green, young, naive, unaccustomed to the ways of men. Do you believe his tenders? I do not know, my lord, what I should think. A big question about Ophelia, or big issue in Shakespeare studies about Ophelia is there anything there? Is Ophelia just a pretty face, but an airhead, in other words? And a lot has been made about the fact that her name begins with O. Because this can also represent what? O is a letter. What is this in numbers? 0, zilch, nada, nothing. She's a blank slate. Look at what Polonius just asked her. Do you believe his tenders? Golly gee, Daddy, I don't know what to believe. You tell me what to believe and I'll believe it. That's kind of what she implies. All right? I don't make much stock about this. Okay? I think there's more to Ophelia than many of the critics say. So she says, he hath importuned me with love in honorable fashion. Now that kind of implies he didn't say, hey Ophelia, let me meet you behind the bleachers some afternoon, or let's go hook up at this motel. All right? In fact, I'm going to suggest Hamlet and Ophelia have never had sex. If you watch Kenneth Branagh's version of the play, they're having sex whenever they can. But that kind of, I don't want to say downplays isn't strong enough. That negates some of the things that are said in the play. So, he says, fashion. fashion you may call it. Why? What is fashion? What's high fashion? Anybody? Ashton? You're fashion design, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay. What's fashion?
It's like your style of like clothes.
It's the style of clothing you wear. Okay. What is he calling? What is he saying about her use of the word fashion? She says, he has importuned me with love in honorable fashion. Fashion, she just means ways. The means, the medium that he hath importuned her love. He takes fashion to mean what? Clothes you can take on and put off. In other words, come on, Ophelia, you're not that stupid. He's play acting. Glad that wasn't open.
Yeah, right.
It's happened many times. So, she says, and hath given countenance to his speech with almost all the holy vows of heaven. It's not just fashion, Daddy. It's not just play acting. I've looked in his eyes, and he's done it with almost all the holy vows of heaven. Holy vows of heaven kind of implies, here's a ring till death do us part, like betrothal, okay? Springs to catch woodcocks, traps to catch birds. That's what he says. This is her father telling her the birds and bees, so to speak, okay? What does Hamlet want? Sex. That's it. He doesn't want anything else from you. So he says, from this time, line 120 and following, be somewhat scanter of your maiden presence, virginal presence. Set your entreatments at a higher rate. You've got a gloss down there for entreatments, 120 something. Conversations, interviews, at a higher rate? What kind of language is that? Anybody business major? Finance? That's economic language, folks. That's like, well, what's the annual percentage rate? 4.1, 5.6, 8.9. Think of yourself as worth a rate, in other words. Okay? Then a command to party. Why? Because Hamlet, because he's young, and with a larger tether may he walk than may be given you. In few, that is, in few words. Does Polonius ever say anything in few words? No. In fact, we're going to see in a speech in just a few moments, he makes his briefness tedious. In few, Ophelia, do not believe his vows. Why? They are brokers. Not of that dye which their investments show, but mere implorators of unholy suits. And you got a gloss. Brokers, go-betweens, procurers. Your editor keeps using that damn word. Procurer. Brokers have a more specific meaning. Okay? Later on, Hamlet's going to call Polonius a fishmonger. We might get to that scene today. And it's not me. And your gloss is going to tell you, for fishmonger, the word means bawd, B-A-W-D. How many of you have ever heard of that word before? I didn't think so. Anybody know what it means? No, but you do know another word that means the exact same thing. Pimp. Yeah. Because what does a pimp do? Pimp has one purpose. Maybe. It's to sell sex. Or maybe madam would be another, female pimp. It's to sell sex. It's to sell women to have sex, or girls, case may be, or boys, case may be. Okay? That's it. That's what a bawd does. The editor also gives the word procurer, but doesn't say procurer of what? Flesh, a go-between. Give me $20, take your pick. Give me $100 and I'll send her to your place. Give me $1,000 and she'll meet you at the best hotel in town, kind of a thing, for an hour or whatever. So, what's he saying about Hamlet's words to Ophelia? They're pimps, man. Or honey. They're just designed to get you in the sack. So he says, from this time forth I would not have you so slander any moment leisure as to give words or talk with the Lord Hamlet. Don't talk to or see Hamlet from this moment on. I shall obey, my lord. Good, dutiful daughter, Not like Hermia was to poor Aegeus. So, scene 4, we get the platform. Hamlet, Marcellus, Horatio are all there. They're keeping watch. Why? Marcellus Horatio told Hamlet about the ghost. He said, I want to see it for myself. So, they're on the battlements, and they can hear the party going on inside. Just drunken revelry going on. And Horatio asked, is this a custom? Is this normal behavior? Hamlet, aye, marry is it. But to my mind, though I am native here, and to the manor born, that is, to the manor of nobility and royalty, okay, not M-A-N-O-R, that is born in a manor house, it is a custom more honored in the breach than the observance. I don't know if there's this trope of the Danes being drunken sots. But if you read the Old English poem Beowulf, which Shakespeare would not have been able to, did not know Old English, the Danes in that poem are portrayed as pretty much drunk most of the time. Beowulf, the character, who's not Danish, will make comments about the reason they're getting their you-know-what's kicked by Grendel is because they're drunk every night. Okay? So, Hamlet essentially says, yeah, it kind of is, but to my mind, and I'm born to this way of life, it's more honored in the breach. Stop the drunkenness, okay, than in the observance. He goes on and says, it makes us known by other nations as being drunkard. The ghost comes in. That's pretty much what the whole speech is about. Though towards the end of it, he brings up some issues that are heavily theological. We'll maybe come back and talk about those at another point. The ghost comes in. Hamlet. Angels and ministers of grace defend us. Almighty God and all the angels, help me or help us. Be thou a spirit of health or goblin Dan, bring with the airs from heaven or blast from hell. Be thy intents, your intentions, wicked or charitable. Thou comest in such a questionable shape that I will speak to thee. In other words, nobody try to stop me. God, step aside. Satan, step aside. That's that. The questionable shape. It raises questions in Hamlet's mind. I'll call thee Hamlet, king, father, royal Dane. Answer me. Let me not burst in ignorance, but tell why thy canonized bones, hearsed in death, have burst their cerements. His canonized bones. Yeah, your footnote means he received a funeral that followed the canons, the laws of the church. And so he was buried properly, okay? The rites of the church were proclaimed and performed. And I don't know if it was the case in Shakespeare's day, but I know it's the case at some funerals today where a priest or a minister at the end of the service, when the person is about to be, the coffin's about to be lowered into the ground, I've seen this before, where the celebrant, the person doing the commemoration, doing the service, will take something like a cross and smack it on the coffin 3 times and say, this coffin is sealed, 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 till the day of resurrection. And what that kind of means is stay put. Don't come back up. How do you take care of a vampire? If you think vampires are real. You kill a vampire, with the silver bullet or the wooden stake through the heart, right? How do you keep a vampire dead, though? Anybody know? Piece of silver or a sickle over the neck when the body's in the grave. Because what happens if they try to get up? It's going to cut the head off. That can kill a vampire for good, too. Okay? Bunch of these bodies have been discovered. Just lots of them. In places like Romania, Transylvania, which is in Romania, places where the Dracula, the vampire belief system has gone around. Okay? So, he says, you shouldn't be here. All the rites of the church were performed. Why are you here? Okay? And the ghost does this to Hamlet. He doesn't do this to all of them. It's like, Hamlet, I'm going. Marcellus Horatio, don't go. It might lead you astray. It might try to get you to throw yourself off the battlements. Okay? Hamlet says, I'll follow. They try to hold him back. Hamlet fights them off. So Hamlet and the ghost go off. Scene 5. Hamlet, speak. I'm not going anymore. You talk now. Mark me. Mark means take note. Okay? I will. My hour is almost come when I to sulfurous and tormenting flames must render up myself. Gee, what do sulfurous and tormenting flames sound like? Heaven? Hell. But it's not hell. Ah, poor ghost. Pity me not, but lend thy serious hearing to what I shall go. Speak! I'm bound to hear. So art thou to revenge. And that introduces the revenge tragedy theme. When you will hear, what? That is, keep going. I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night, and for the day confined to fast and fires, till the foul crimes done in my days of nature are burnt and purged away. Okay? So, doomed for a certain time to walk the night, and during the day to be confined to fires. For what purpose? Till the foul crimes done in my days of nature, when I was alive, are burnt and purged away. So where is the ghost during the day? Not heaven. When you go to heaven, there's no purging going on. You're fine at that point. You're perfect at that point. Hell? Hell, you don't leave. You're there forever. Purgatory. Baptists believe in purgatory? Nope. Methodists believe in purgatory? Nope. Disciples of Christ? Nope. Protestants in general? Nope. I'm Orthodox. We don't have a purgatory. There's only one branch of Christendom that does. Catholic Church. Okay? It's an invention in the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages. It's got scriptural basis, etc. Catholics will argue and such. I mean, this is clear. This is purgatory. This isn't the quasi-purgatory. All right? So, is Shakespeare Catholic? I mean, he's got purgatory. A lot of people will say, yes, he is. How do we know? Because his family was. Whether Shakespeare was, we're not sure. Is Shakespeare Protestant? There's going to be passages in here that sound like a good Calvinist. Okay, we'll talk about those. So, he says, but, boy, if I could tell you what I experienced during the day, I could a tale unfold whose lightest word would harrow up thy soul. Freeze thy young blood, make thy two eyes like stars, start from their spheres. I could scare the bejeebies out of you, Hamlet. Okay? Oh, God. Revenge is most foul and most unnatural murder. Let me back up. Line 23. If thou didst ever thy dear father love. And that's when Hamlet says, oh, God. Why? It's coming. The truth is coming. Revenge is foul and most unnatural murder. Murder most foul, as in the best it is, but this most foul, strange and unnatural. How is it unnatural? Remember that word nature means according to birth, according to kind, what one is. If it's unnatural, then it goes against birth, it goes against nature. Tell me, and I with wings as swift as meditation or the thoughts of love may sweep to my revenge. He says, okay, I think you're ready. I find thee apt. So, he says, this is what you've heard about how I died. I was sleeping in the orchard, and a serpent stung me, bit me. Right? Okay. He says, the serpent that bit me, now where's the crown? Oh, my prophetic soul, my uncle. Why does Hamlet say, oh, my prophetic soul?
Because he already kind of thought that.
He's got bad vibes coming from Claudius. Yeah, he figured something was wrong there. Okay? I, that incestuous, that adulterate beast. Why incestuous? Because he's sleeping with my wife. Okay? So, he goes on, talks about, the difference between himself, and his brother. And he says, oh, but I better hurry up because I see that morning star rising. It's time for me to go back to my confinements and such. He says, let me tell you what really happened. As you know, I usually go take a nap in the orchard during the day. And I was there, and my brother came in, and he poured poison into my ear. This is going to become used in the play within the play later on. Okay? And he said, and I died. Line 76, page 1258. Cut off even in the blossoms of my sin. So, the sin in myself, in my soul, in my body was blossoming, like at its ripest point. Well, what's he mean? Cut off even in the blossoms of my sin, unhouseled, disappointed, unanelled, no reckoning made, but sent to my account with all my imperfections on my head. Catholic doctrine. He's saying, I died without confession, without absolution. Another point in the play, the term that's going to be used is unshriven. To be shriven, to be shrived, is to be confessed and absolved of one's sin. You see it in TVs, Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. The very next thing the penitent will usually say is, I haven't been to confession in, 5 days, 10 weeks, 20 years, kind of a thing. Okay? So, in confession, somebody goes to a priest, confesses all the sins, and then the priest absolves that individual. That is, you are forgiven. You are washed clean. From this point on, you have no sins left. Until you walk out and start lusting for your neighbor's wife, kind of a thing. Right? Or whatever the particular sin might be. He's saying, I didn't get to do this before I died. This is why the Catholic Church, and the Orthodox Church also has it, has last rites. If somebody is deathly ill and on their deathbed, the priest comes in, says, tell me what you can. And the prayers of absolution also include washing this person clean for any sins they may not have confessed because of couldn't remember them kind of a thing, right? What's Hamlet Sr.'s point? I died full of sin. That's why he's in purgatory. Notice, not hell, which is telling us what about him also? He's clearly a Christian. Okay? He's not Muslim, he's not a Jew, he's not Hindu, all right? So, with all my imperfections on my head, look how the sentence ends. Oh horrible, most horrible. Slightly emphatic, right? This is really bad. If thou hast nature in thee, bear it not. That is, don't carry with you this kind of nature. Let not the royal bed of Denmark be a couch for luxury and damned incest, but howsoever thou pursues this act, taint not thy mind, and nor let thy soul contrive against thy mother aught. So, however you go about exacting this revenge, he says, taint not your mind. And leave your mother to heaven. So what does that mean, taint not your mind? What do you do when you taint something?
Corrupt it.
Or if tainted, you corrupt it. So, let's think of Hamlet's mind as a gallon of white paint. Pure white paint. The ghost has said, your mind should stay pure white. Your mind should stay untainted. Right? So what would it take to taint that gallon of white paint? How much other colored paint would you have to put in to taint it? A drop. A drop is going to change it. It may not change it much, but it will taint it. So he's saying, don't let everything I've just told you color your perceptions. Don't let it change the way you look at the world. Don't let it change your mind in any way. Okay, now, time out for a moment. Think about that. You've just been told your father, assume for the moment he loves his father, whom you love, has been murdered by your uncle. Yeah, and that's not supposed to change how you look at life? What do you immediately want to do? What does that involve? Killing, right? What kind of killing? Right? Killing of passion? It might be. But he says, whatever thou contrive to do. If you contrive to do something, what are you doing? You're thinking about it. You're planning it. In legal jargon, where are you moving from? Crime of passion to premeditation. Pre-thinking about it. You're considering, you're planning. So you go from possibly negligent homicide to first-degree murder. So the ghost says, leave your mother to heaven. Adieu, adieu, adieu. Remember me. Don't forget, Hamlet. The ghost leaves. Hamlet's alone on the stage. Another soliloquy. Oh, all you host of heaven. Everything in heaven. God and all the angels and all the saints. Everybody who's, quote unquote, seen Jesus and died, All of you, O earth, that is everything on earth. Let's see, what else? What can I include here? So if you include everything in heaven and everything on earth, or maybe heaven even just means not just heaven, but the heavens, that is everything outside earth and all of earth, so you're including all of reality. And he says, what else? He Shall I couple hell too? Should we bring hell into the picture? Into this equation? Fine. Hold my heart. Why is he saying to his heart, hold? How many of you have ever been in love and broken up? How do you feel when you break up? What happens to your heart? It shatters, right? You have a broken heart. His heart's broken. He's saying, gotta keep it together, gotta push it back into place. And you, my sinews, the stuff that keeps the body connected. Grow not instant old. Because what happens when you grow instant old? What does he mean by old? From your age to my age? I mean, that would be bad, believe me. It would be from your age to 110. Instantly. What do you go from? Young, hearty, strong to need a stick. Or in the ground and rotted. That's the image. Dead. Right? Bear me stiffly up, like Frankenstein's monster, even though he would not have that image. Remember thee? Aye, thou poor ghost, whilst memory holds a seat in this distracted globe. Now notice what I just did. I pointed to my head, because I think Hamlet literally is talking about his mind. His mind is what? Distracted. What does it mean to be distracted? I've noticed just while lecturing, people on their phones, looking out the windows, doing other stuff. It means you're distracted. What does that mean? Your mind is doing what? It's wandering, right? It's following something else more interesting. Don't worry about it, I don't mind. It means it's not focused on the particular thing. Hamlet is telling us something about his mind. Is his mind distracted merely because of what the ghost has told him? What did he say in his first long soliloquy? Oh, that this too sullied flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew. Or that the Almighty had not fixed his canon gainst self-slaughter. Those first 4 lines, Hamlet tells us he's already thinking about what? Killing himself. Suicide. Not telling us he's planning it, but he's thought about it. Why? Because he's distracted. This world, he says there, is what? Not profitable, stale, flat. It holds no joy for him. He's distracted, folks. Is he crazy? It's the $100,000 question for all Shakespeare studies. Is Hamlet really crazy? Okay? So, but this distracted globe may mean something else. He could say, in this distracted globe, meaning the theater. While memory holds, while you're with me in this globe, yes, we'll remember you. But what about when you leave the theater? Or the theater, because the globe is supposed to represent the globe. Is the whole world distracted? Now, that's a pretty deep theological kind of question. He says, remember thee? Yea. How well is he going to remember the ghost? From the table of my memory I'll wipe away all trivial fond records, all saws of books, all forms, all pressures past, that youth and observation copied there. What does he mean from the table of my memory? Does he mean like flat surface that you put stuff on table? No. He means like table of contents of my memory. So what's he saying he's going to do? Everything I've learned up until this point, gone. I'm reformatting the hard drive. So instead of everything he has stored from his first recollections to 5 minutes ago, it all gets replaced with what? 2 words, really. Kill Claudius. Tainted? How tainted? It's like he took that gallon of white paint, dumped it out, rinsed out the can, and put another color entirely in it. And that other color is kill Claudius. All right? So, Horatio and Marcellus come in. Hamlet makes them swear on his sword that they will not tell anybody about the ghost. Okay? They agree. But then he says, Horatio says, line 164, page 1260. Oh, day and night, but this is wondrous strange. Oh, day and night means all of time. Has anybody seen anything so wondrously strange, out of the ordinary, unusual? Hamlet. And therefore, as a stranger, give it welcome. Why? He introduces this idea of hospitality. Don't have time, but what the hell. What are called the ancient Indo-European peoples. Okay? This was a small group of people that lived about 7,000 years ago. Okay? Between, slightly north of, the Black and Caspian Seas. Southern steppes of Russia, parts of, modern day Ukraine. All right? And at some point in time, this group of people began to break up and go off into different areas. They became the people that settled the Indian subcontinent. They became the people that settled Russia. So all the Slavic languages, all the Indian languages, all right? All the Germanic languages, all the Celtic languages, all the Latin languages, French, Portuguese, etc., all the Greek languages, all the speakers of those descend from this one group of people. That group of people held this ideal, this virtue, as just about the highest belief. What does it mean? It means if some stranger comes knocking on your door, you open the door and you let them in. Xenia in Greek. It's the word from which we get xenophobic. Phobic, fear of strangers, others, aliens. Okay? And how do we know that all these people had this belief system? Because you look in the mythology of every one of these cultures. Every one of them. And there is an emphasis on welcoming strangers. When you don't welcome strangers, bad stuff happens to you. Okay? You see it in Homer's Odyssey, for example. And we're told, when you welcome strangers, you sometimes welcome the gods in human form. And if you do that, the gods go, way to go, and they bless you. And if you don't, they curse you. Okay? You see it in St. Paul's writing in the New Testament. So, as a stranger, he tells Horatio, welcome the strangeness. In other words, to use another phrase kind of from the military, embrace the suck. Bad stuff happens. Accept it. All right? There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. It's generally assumed Horatio is a Stoic, ancient Roman philosophy. Okay? The Stoics essentially said, life as we know it is all there is. There's no life after death. And yeah, life sucks. And you want to live a quote-unquote good life, a happy life, then don't get too high and don't get too low. Don't let the bad stuff take you down. Don't let the good stuff make you ecstatic. Just kind of stay on an even keel. All right? So what's he telling Horatio? Your philosophy doesn't incorporate everything. There's more in the world than you think. All right? One last thing before I let you go. Got 1 minute. Hamlet tells them at this point, if I should act a little crazy from here on out, don't let on that you know I'm acting crazy. So, one of the big questions is, from this point on, how do we know when Hamlet is acting crazy versus how do we know when Hamlet is crazy or distracted? Or is he ever really crazy? All right, we'll stop there. I'm going to put up, you don't have to take it yet by any means. I'm going to put up a quiz today that will be over Acts 1 and 2, and it won't be due until Wednesday night. We'll cover Act 2 on Monday, right? But go ahead and read through Act 3. We might get through it and just start Act 3. All right, have a good weekend.